Thank you very much. I feel in awe of being up here with 7 other people who did so much for this department. And being here 2 weeks ago, the same thing, and being here whenever that damn pandemics before that started to have the first class. We've had some great athletes at this place. And here you're going to see these. You're going to see more with Drew's leadership of getting the Hall of Fame going. I struggled with what to say because people are coaches like Stan can talk about his coaching career, and players can talk about their playing career and have a lot of their athletes with them, their friends. But I have my family over here first. I have my 2 sons. The other son is in Hong Kong. He can't get out of Hong Kong because he's going to have to be in quarantine when he goes back to Hong Kong. So therefore, he's watching me right here. I have my brother and his wife, my nephew and a niece, some other friends, and I haven't forgot the most important person, my wife Ann, who has been with me. If I've seen 10,000 games over my career, she's been to 9,000 of them. So she's been very important in my life. And thank you. I can't see, is President Burger Sweeney here? There you are. There you are. And Drew, thank you. And the committee for putting me in this position. I appreciate that. Here what I'm going to do, the only thing I can do is we did a lot of construction in 28 years. And I just want to give you a little history of it, how it happened maybe, and what effect it had on our athletes. And when I started in 1982, some of you remember where the courtyard was. It's now a swimming pool. I walked in there and looked at the building on the right. It was built in 1927. Has an old pool in it, 6 old squash courts. I look straight ahead and I see the Memorial Field House, which was built after World War II to commemorate those Trinity men who died in World War II. So it was built in 1947. And I look to the left to the Ferris Building that was built in 1967. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's 1982, 1927, 1947, 1967, I'm getting close to 1987. So we've got to start some building and get some things. The building war between NESCAC schools, which are very wealthy schools that you all know, continued and continued and continued, and we cannot be left out of it. So I had an open mind from the people I talked to. First thing we did was we took the tennis courts and the indoor field house, put down a good surface, a surface that would last, a surface that was safe for our athletes to practice on. Then the rowing tanks were a 4-seater, and we converted that to a 16-seater, 216, a port and a starboard and a port, is that what you call it? And we also put plenty of space for like 20 rowing tanks. The second floor of the locker, this is something that I noticed when I was coaching women's track. The women's locker room and shower area was in the 1927 building. The men's shower and lockers were in the 1967 building. So I'm trying to think, that's not right. So we had many of the students, they had a huge area for lockers. There were plenty of lockers for the men. Most of them were not used because most men or women come down, dress in their dorm and come down, do whatever they're going to do and go back, and they don't need a locker. So we split the locker room in half, made it half of it for women, better showers for women. We built a building adjacent to it, a second floor and a first floor. The second floor so that the women would have the equipment manager would have a place with washers, dryers, and all that stuff to operate, which made things a lot better. At the same time, on the first floor of that facility, we built a women's swimming locker room. Obviously, we didn't have a pool at the time where I wanted it, and so it sat empty for a year or two until we were able to get the pool. And we built a men's locker room on the other side by taking half, or not half, but 40% of the wrestling room and making that into an area for the future swimming pool for men. So now it comes to the pool, but before that, if you're in that area, you know that's a shaft all the way up, goes all the way to the sky. It's completely empty, that courtyard there. So we built this box about 60 feet up in the air. And believe me, there's a lot of steel in that because 10 years before, the rink over here, the roof over here at the Civic Center collapsed. And they found that they didn't have enough steel in the roof. So every building built after that, the town inspectors made sure that there was plenty of steel in this, especially in this building, because it was so high up. Busted through the old building to make doorways in and out. We put 10 squash courts in there, 2 international courts, and 8 regular courts, American courts. And then about 3 or 4 years later, the squash gods changed the rules, and they said that all courts have to be international courts. So now we have to take this box up here again and refigure it. And we were proactive on this to get this done earlier before many other schools did. Many other schools continue to play on American courts. And we were able to take and have 8 courts. We lost 1 court, and another court we could not move into the hallway because the fire marshal wouldn't let us widen it. But at least we had 8 courts, which was plenty enough to do the games, the matches that we had to play. Now, on the first, down below all that, we've got this big open area down there, and so we're going to put a swimming pool there. So we put an 8-lane, what they call an 8-lane, 37-meter stretch pool with a movable bulkhead, so you can move it back and forth. If you want to play water polo, you can move it all the way to the end, and you can have plenty of space to play water polo. Or you can move it back between meters and yards, or whatever you wanted to do. So now we've got this pool. Now we can open up the 2 locker rooms, which are for men and women, that we built a couple of years earlier. And we're starting to get more competitive. We're starting to get more equal with some of our friends in NESCAC. And if I can say one thing about NESCAC, it's called the New England Small College Athletic Conference. There's 11 schools in it. One of them is in upstate New York, so it's not New England. And two of them, Tufts and Wesleyan, are rather larger schools than the rest of it, so it's not small college. But anyway, who cares? There's 42 conferences in America now, Division III conferences. And we probably are ranked in the top 3 as competitive as we are. So you have to do these things if you want to be competitive, continue to be competitive. And he knows that more than anybody because he knows what he's going through right now, because it is a situation where if somebody twitches their arm over here, 3 people are going to twitch their arm over here. So to continue, I don't know how I can read this in the dark. But anyway, we needed a training facility where athletes could be treated for their injuries. And we had a situation that was up on the 2nd floor. Again, this was all, that Ferris was all built when it was an all-male school. So don't hold it against the college when these things don't work out. We have to correct them, and the college agreed to correct them. We needed a better training room. We needed a better way of getting the women to the training room. So if you don't know Ferris, or if you remember Ferris, it had 2 empty on the 1st floor at the ends. They were wide open, and there was an open hallway going down the outside on the north side towards the baseball diamond. So we filled in one of those ends, the one that was closest to the campus, and made a training room. And now we've got a facility where people can come in. It's not as crowded. Women can come in, men can come in, and after they're treated, they can walk right out to the fields or walk right down to the basketball court or wherever they're going. The other end, we enclosed that also and made it into a fitness room for weights and so forth. And then we enclosed the hallway going down so that you could walk from one end to the other without going outside. So now it becomes a fully functional place to do things. So we're back to squash again. I already went into that, but is Paul here? I don't know where Paul is here, but he's probably gone. But he has 3 girls, so he's got to take care of them. We took the old squash courts out, the 6 squash courts that were there that were built in 1927, and we put 2 new state-of-the-art squash courts in with blue tinted glass on 3 sides. The wall was painted, the front wall was painted light green, and the floor had some Brazilian wood in it that was a little bit darker than normal. So the only change we had to make was you had to play with a white ball because a black ball would be hard to see with all that dark stuff around. So those are 2 state-of-the-art courts that they can play great tournaments in, have 2 outstanding players come in and put on an exhibition or whatever. The boathouse. The boathouse. Can't forget the boathouse. Boathouse needed a lot of work in the late 90s. And what we did was we took the whole thing out of there. We left the foundation in. And we rebuilt the whole area. We put more space in for boats, oars, and so forth. But we also made a 2nd floor, or in some cases a 3rd floor, because we had a half of a 2nd floor. And we had a lot of rooms up there where the rowers could meet with coaches, and also they could have events where they could get together And we know how important the alumni are in this whole thing. So there were areas for that. The outside fields, we had an old football field. Don, we're probably the 15th oldest football field in America, maybe. And so if you normally want on a field, you want a little crown to it. You don't want it concave. You want it crowned. And ours was concave. So we had to be careful if it rained hard and somebody got on a fumble, and they could drown out there. So, but anyway, we put a new surface on in 2001. We put a new surface on the football field. It's called field turf, and obviously fixed the field so it has a little crown to it, and did some drainage problems that were there, and at the same time, on the women's side, field hockey was playing in the outfield of the baseball diamond, because baseball's in the spring, field hockey's in the fall. The thing of it is, with field hockey it's a downhill lie. So it goes downhill from the statue up there towards Broad Street. So the second half you want to have to make sure you're attacking downhill. So on the flip of the coin, you always have to remember that you want to make sure that you're on the offense going towards Broad Street. So you can't play games like that. So what we did, we took, since we have a field now where football and lacrosse can play and practice on the same field, we don't need the practice field. So we put a field hockey field and a women's lacrosse field in that area between the backside of the football bleachers and Broad Street. We had to bring in a lot of dirt. We had to bring up 7 feet on the Broad Street side, and we had to drop down 3 feet on the behind the football bleachers. We put in lights. We put in fencing, new scoreboard. Everything was great for field hockey and lacrosse. And we even played some intramural softball at night. We turned the lights on, and the students could play intramural softball, two different fields on both ends of the field. We come to ice hockey. The guy that was head of the Whalers talked to me in the late 90s, and he wanted to try to find a place where we could share a rink down in our area, not in their area. Because basketball was played on the rink, in the Civic Center, and therefore ice hockey couldn't practice anywhere unless they went to a rink somewhere around. They wanted their own facility where they could have their practice stuff and their trainer stuff and whatever. So I don't know what this guy's name, Cat Francis or whatever, I'm not sure what his name, but he was the owner, or not the owner, but he was the general manager of the Whalers. The Whalers were here at that time. So the two of us drive around everywhere and trying to find a place where we could put this rink. And the best place I thought was right across from the dining hall, where you could walk across Summit Street, and you've got that field down below. You could build a rink where you could walk in at the top of the hockey rink and go down, or you could drive around and park and go in at the bottom. And it sounded good to me, except the Whalers left town, so that went over. So a few years later, we started looking around again and found a strip mall over on the other side of New Britain Avenue. And the college bought that and tore it down, and we put a rink in there. And so it was a huge project. I tend to stay with these jobs and go to the job meetings of all these things to make sure somebody doesn't try to change something that we put in there that we need. Understand, understand that all these things, all these buildings, all this construction we've done is to make a better athletic. They weren't wasted things. We were not trying to just get things to get better than anybody else. We wanted to at least keep up with people. And that's why how we were able to. The school, the administration was very, very helpful. The fundraisers were very, very helpful. And they continue to be, even after I've gone in 2010. So we got a hockey rink. The last thing I did before I left in 2010, and I worked on it in June of 2010, was the tennis court. And that's the first thing I did 28 years earlier. So we're taking the tennis courts, redoing them again, calling them the Asiante tennis courts, and we're back to square one again. So that's what's going on. We had a situation where we wanted to do a baseball diamond. We had some money that was invested, given to us, and it was in 2008 when the whole world fell apart financially. So we had to put everything on hold for about 4 or 5 years, and I was gone by then. But the new guy came in and did a great job with the baseball diamond, great job with the softball diamond, and other things. And this guy is doing great things with the bleachers and so forth. And I know what he's going to do, and it's going to be great in the future. So we're going to continue. We're going to continue to fight the battle with Williams and Amherst and Wesleyan and Middlebury. We're going to get them. We're going to stay with them. So if you wanted to see the additional improvements, not only up to 2010, but in the last few years, just go up on the landing on the north side of Ferris, those steps that go down. You come out the steps and go down. Stand up there and look out over those fields, and you will be amazed at what you're seeing for a city school. We can't go over across the street and practice. There's 45 houses sitting over there, and we're not going to go in there and tear them down. So you have to, it's unfortunate that we have to do this with synthetic surface, but it's the only way we can exist. Buildings and facilities and courts are not the only criteria that make a good athletic department. The key is a dedicated, motivated athletic department staff who develop athletes to their fullest potential. And we've had that. We've had great coaches here, outstanding coaches here, many of them from the 28, 29 sports that we have. And as I said, they continue too. And I know this guy will get good coaches in here if somebody leaves. We are in a very competitive conference, as I mentioned before, so we have to keep up with that. We have to have support from alumni and alumni for these facilities. And all I have to say is I was lucky to have all the above: great coaches, facilities, help from alumni, support from the administration. And all this has made an experience where it's the sweetest ride ever. Thank you very much.